Welcome back to the studio. So today we're going to be talking about morning pages, specifically my thoughts and reflections on doing morning pages for 50 days now. What I'm particularly interested in is the differences between my observations upon 30 days of morning pages. Are there any differences? Has there been any progression? That's a question that I've already answered for myself, otherwise I wouldn't be making this video. The simple answer is yes, there have been progressions and developments in the 20 days, between the 30 days and the 50 days. So just to recap some of the things I talked about upon doing morning pages for 30 days. The significance of 30 days was that that's what they say, that's the period of time it takes to form a new habit. And I wanted to embed morning pages in my daily routine, in my morning routine specifically. And that was the main thing. After 30 days of doing morning pages, it was an essential part of my morning routine. I couldn't imagine starting the day without doing my morning pages. And I reflected at the time that I set off on a 2-day hike and I still had to take my morning pages book with me, and I had literally the day before heading out on that hike I decided to move over to these notebooks. I've moved up to bigger paper, these moleskin extra large kahir. Someone gave me a pronunciation guide in that video. I'm going to say kahir because that's the way it looks to me, but kahir, and someone will post how it should be pronounced, which is bigger because before that I was using this. A5 paper because I felt a bit intimidated by the bigger books, even though I know that Julia Cameron in her book The Artist's Way recommends using US letter size paper. These are very close, this extra large car here. So I'd moved over to these, which is a sign of the success, if you like, of doing morning pages, that I wanted more space to write in. I wanted to get more words into my 3 sides so I could probably let it all flow out of my subconscious. And actually, interestingly, today I'm going to jump in with this straight away because I've been trying to prepare this video and I didn't really get very far with it. And then this morning I was doing my morning pages and I had to start a few other things first. It's one of those days, I'm sure you have them, you get up a bit late, there's things that need to be done, there's things scheduled, you've got to crack on with it. And so it was a good 45 minutes to an hour before I got to sit down and actually do my morning pages. And the first the first few paragraphs, the first sort of 3/4 of a page was, I was thinking, the brain was grinding into gear. And what was interesting was, foolishly you might say, but as it turns out, precipitously, usefully, in that period of time between waking up and sitting down to do my morning pages, I dived into one of my old journals, one of my old notebooks, which is something I used to do. That used to be my morning routine, is I would sit here. This room is full of them. I mean, there's a few on the shelf back behind me here. There's a big metal filing box full of them here. There's a drawer in here full of them. There's a box down there. I mean, they're all over the place. They go back to about 1989, 1990. And this one I was reading from basically 2 years ago. This is, at one point I really liked the moleskin, the medium-sized moleskin books. It seemed sort of somewhere between, well, it is between the pocket notebooks, like the field notes here, that pocket notebook size, and then the A5 size. This is sort of, well, yeah, it's in between the two. So I used these for a few years, and I just dived into about almost exactly 2 years ago. And it was interesting because it was a point when I was working through some things. I had some things coming to, I was sort of having realizations about my recent journey at that point and making sense of it and making sense of where I was at. And I was trying to kind of get it out and understand it. And I was using the Notes app on my phone, which I do use, well, now I actually use it a bit less, but I used to use that as a way of just capturing thoughts when I was out and about, to just put on the dictation button. So you turn the microphone on. If you've never used it, it's quite a good tool actually, because you can put on the microphone and it will dictate your speech into words. And what I would do then sometimes, if I thought that had any use and needed to be preserved in some way, I would print them out, cut them down to size and stick them into my notebooks, which only really works if you've got the bigger notebooks. I have done it with pocket notebooks. And so I had some stuff here, which is a little bit more stream of consciousness, if you like. So it was a really lovely contrast between how I was journaling then and how I would process thoughts now I'm doing morning pages. So I started to reflect on that in my morning pages, which I did afterwards, after reading through this, a few pages of this. And the first thing that it brought to mind is, well, I would process those thoughts in a completely different way now. In a completely different way now that I'm using morning pages. Because it's the idea that it's a stream of consciousness and you let the words flow without judgment, without too much conscious thought. So you just let it come. And there's no intention, you know, in a lot of ways that you might read it back. I'm going to contradict that because I'm going to use this for this video about 50 days of morning pages. So recap some of the ideas from the 30 days. I'm going to do it off the top of my head. I have written a blog post about it, which I'll link to here. But the main things were the clarity of thought that it gave me in the morning. It was like a purging of all that kind of junk that's in your head in the morning. Maybe it's not junk, but just all the thoughts cluttering your mind. And so you get them all out. And so you start the day with a much clearer brain. And one of the other key points in that I'd come to realise is that part of the process of doing morning pages, alongside a few other things, but I'd come to actually understand myself better, because you see connections if you do look back, but you don't even sometimes need to look back, because you might remember things that you've written in your morning pages and suddenly you go, oh yeah, there's a lot of recurring themes here. When I just let it all flow out, there are certain recurring themes, and so you start to see it in a way that you don't when it passes through the filter of conscious thought. And it made me wonder that how different the last 2 years might have been if I'd been doing morning pages. Not that I would want it to be any different, but I thought, oh, I wonder if having to do it in a slower way, in a lot of ways, where I'm slowly processing thoughts, I'm thinking about them before I'm recording them, I was reading them back, and I was be thinking about it. It was quite a ponderous process, whereas what I find now is when I'm processing things, which are not massively dissimilar to what I was processing 2 years ago. In some ways they are, in some ways they aren't, but you know, it's the same. It's the thing about being alive, being a sentient person moving through life. The morning pages and letting it flow, it's a much quicker way of getting through stuff, of just because you're just putting it out there on the page. You're not processing it. There's no kind of real processing going on, actually. That's that thing of processing thoughts. I don't find when I do my morning pages, I process. It just gets it out there on the page. It's gone, it's done, and I leave it. And so any impact is what you feel, is what I feel here. There was another interesting observation for myself in the difference between when I would use the Notes app to capture what I was thinking, because that was part of the process of, oh, I'll get this thought now whilst I think it, is that difference between speech and writing. Because in order for you to put it into the Notes app, you have to say it. So you've thought it, and then you have to say it. And something happens in that transference between thought to speech, which is quite different between transferring between thought and writing it in morning pages, when you're just letting it flow out through the pen. I find it's much easier to write anything that goes through my head than it would be to say it, particularly to say it out loud. To say it out loud, obviously, how can you say it without saying it out loud? But to say it out loud, and usually if I'm doing that, notice that I'm walking somewhere, that's a completely different thing. Just imagine for yourself, if you do morning pages, imagine saying that stuff out loud in the street. It's suddenly different. So there's a number of blocks and filters that come into play, that come into place there. And so consequently, I guess, you know, some of those thoughts, the things that you need to get out, they're not coming out. They're still stuck in there. And even though you think I'm processing these ideas, I'm working through some stuff, I'm trying to work out how these things fit together. And this is also the same for creative writing, for ideating, anything like that, any kind of process. Stuff's getting left behind. Stuff's getting left behind. You could say it's there, clogging up the tubes, clogging up the pipes, stopping the flow of the river, to use that metaphor that we use all the time. It's also a really good reflection on how much benefit I've gained from doing morning pages. And 50 days as opposed to 30 days, I look back, or even at 30 days, and feel like I've come on so much further. I haven't missed any days between 30 days and 50 days. I think I hit 50 days on Saturday or Sunday. Today's Tuesday. Whereas in the first 30 days, I think I needed 35 days or 34 days to have done 30 actual days of morning pages, whereas now it's the 20 days since then have been continuous. And even if I do it at lunchtime, which are sometimes at the weekends, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? Because my wife's here, we wake up, we hang out, we go for breakfast, I don't want to go, oh, by the way, can I just take 20 minutes to do my morning pages, which I did on Sunday. But even there, I make sure I get it done in the morning before I eat at lunchtime at the very least. And often now, most of the time, I'm doing morning pages before I eat. Now, that may not sound like a big deal to a lot of you. You might think, what's unusual about that? Some people don't even eat breakfast. For me, the first thing I always did in the morning was have breakfast, particularly coffee. I have a coffee and something to eat first thing. I can't countenance doing anything before I do those two things. And now I'm definitely prioritising morning pages over breakfast. And sometimes now I'm not having breakfast till mid-morning. It's a big change for me, not something I thought I would do. I'm familiar with some of the ideas around intermittent fasting, all of that. And that's not for me. That's not going to work for me. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing it for, but it's happening anyway as a consequence. I'm not going to read directly what I wrote in my morning pages about this difference between the way I used to capture what thought I was capturing, spontaneous thoughts via dictation on an app, as opposed to writing morning pages, is that idea that there's a lot less judgment involved when you don't have to verbalize something, but also that difference, that the idea that whether it's your unconscious mind, but whatever's going on in your brain when you just free associate, the relationship between that part of your brain and the hand that's driving the pen is like a servant to the part of the brain. It's this kind of flesh and bone machine which has got the job of transferring your thoughts into the shapes of letters. And there was a wonderful comment from somebody on a recent morning pages video where they said that what they did is they just they had one page, they used one page and they just wrote over it continuously for a period of time. I love that idea. And that would create an amazing kind of image, wouldn't it? Because that's feeding into the idea that, you're not really, well, apparently Julia Cameron does say that you reread it after a few months or something. Still haven't read the book, and I will read the book, don't worry. Or there's the writer's way, isn't there, which Olivia suggested. And I'll be having a chat with Olivia about morning pages and writing and the rest of it. Olivia's a published novelist as well, so we're really upping the standard from just me sat here to a published novelist and an avid morning pager. Morning pages have definitely changed the way I look at my writing, the way I look at the way my brain works, the way I block things, the way I stand in my own way. I would say as a person, but certainly when it comes to transferring ideas, that I don't really, it's something, I don't know what it is yet. Maybe that'll be what will it be, 90 days of morning pages update, where I finally understand what that's about, where the resistance comes when I come to create something. But it ain't there when I do the morning pages, and I see some wonderful combinations of words and phrases that I'm going to go back through and pull them out. But it's not so much actually the phrases themselves, but it's the rhythm that was captured that I need to get back again when I'm not so clogged up with thoughts. I love the idea of the neurons in your brain firing, and the energy from the neurons just drives the hand across the page. It's like this almost kind of mechanical, electrical process, which isn't almost isn't like the flesh machine. What do they call it? Who came up with the idea about us being flesh robots? What's that? Someone will know in the comments. There is it's either a book or it's a phrase. Oh, well, it's a well-known writer. This is gonna, I don't mind. I'll leave this in. This is the humanity of it. I'm not coming here to you as an expert in anything at all. And that was the thing really that really hit me this morning, is that now I really have a practice where for 20 minutes I stop. And I rarely stop, and when I do stop and think and ponder and stare out this window here and contemplate stuff and look at the roof line in the sky and look at the clouds. but my brain is whirring the entire time. I'm sure a lot of you are the same if you do multiple things, because I'm writing, I'm making videos all the time, I've got a family. So taking that 20 minutes in the morning to stop everything else, everything stops, and that's what I do for those 20 minutes. That's an incredibly valuable thing. And I'm seeing the meditative benefits of it, the mental health benefits of it, therapeutic benefits of it for me personally, really a lot clearer than I did before. Like now, it's after 50 days, it really is part of my life, and it will be. I can't imagine a time now, I can't imagine a time when it's not. And it's been great reading people's comments to see how long people have been doing morning pages. In terms of, there has to be a stationery element to this, isn't there? It's funny, isn't it? The two things go hand in hand. And I thought, now I've settled on these, I thought this is like, it feels perfect. Although I did mention that I might switch it up from time to time. So I bought a pack of 3 of these, which actually is quite cost efficient. I know people think moleskin are a bit overpriced, but I think 3 of these were $15.99 from Foyles. I think I bought it from in the end, or Foyles or Ryman's. I think it was Foyles on Charing Cross Road. And so what's that make it? 16 quid. So like, I don't know, £5 something each. That's not bad considering this will last me 6 weeks. So that's pretty good. But for whatever reason, I think it was a comment someone made about a shop in Covent Garden which sells really nice Japanese stationery, because I do like a bit of Japanese stationery. Who doesn't? I've been using Muji notebooks for years. In fact, there's one here which I'm currently using as a mouse mat that had, I don't know what that started life as. I use a lot of these as project books, really, specific projects. So I went to a shop on Old Street yesterday. I was in the area. I thought, I looked at the website, of course, to see what they had. I had popped in there before and not really fancied anything. Again, this is a morning pages change to the way I look at stationery. I'll put the name of the shop here. I think it's called something concept store, Japanese concept store. I'll put the name and the address. It's on Old Street. They have a very limited but well chosen range of stationery, and I went there to pick up one of these, so I was looking for B5 composition size, which is roughly the size I'm after, although this notebook here is a little bit small, just margin. I mean, to be honest with you, it's splitting hairs, isn't it? What's it, about ½ a centimetre narrower, but otherwise it's the same size. It's lovely. These are called Rollbahn, which is interesting because they are Japanese notebooks, but all the copy on the front is in German. I don't know what that's about. Somebody in the comments will know. The company, I think they're called Delfonics. You can see I'll be giving myself away as a little bit of a noob to the experienced stationery people here. But this is delightful. This is really lovely. Look at this lovely creamy squared paper at the front there. That's really, really nice. I can't remember how many pages. It's got enough pages. You can see how thick it is. It's enough certainly for about 4 weeks, which is great. That was £6 for that. Some people might think that's overpriced for a little notebook, perhaps, but then again, if you look, it's more or less the same price as one of these, or one of these is a bit bigger, one of these moleskins. But I'm realizing now I need the novelty, I think, perhaps, of changing my notebook after when I finish one. Maybe, who knows? But I'm certainly going to move on to a different notebook after that moleskin. And I also picked up this whilst I was there, just purely for the aesthetics. Again, Japanese stuff. Look, and it's got the, you know, the lovely Japanese. Who knows? There's probably just technical information, but because I don't speak the language, it looks really delightful. And I believe this script here is the rounded script. Isn't that called Kenji or something? Wait till you see inside. This is one of the reasons I purchased it. It's grid, but it's got this space at the top, which is a very intriguing space. I probably won't use that space, but maybe I will. Maybe that's where I could write a little summary after I finish the morning page of some bits that are in it. So I think the point here is to divide the page up, perhaps. And it's got a room at the top for the date, page number. On the inside cover here, there are, I think, instructions for how to divide up the page perhaps. There'll be a YouTube video about people using these, how they use them. This is called a Think NOTE by Nakabayashi, and it has 5mm squares. I think I'll use this for morning pages as well, because actually what's interesting is when you look at the actual active area with the grid on it, it's about, I think it is exactly B5 composition. So it will work. But the fact that I can even contemplate taking on something which is basically A4 without fear, that's one of the main updates of 50 days of morning pages, is that now I just want to let it flow. I just want to fill up the page. The bigger the page, the more thoughts I can get out. So it's been an absolute revelation. This has been an incredible journey. I think at this stage I almost feel like it's been one of my most important creative journeys that I've gone on in terms of clarifying thoughts, changing my approach to my creativity. Yeah, it's right up there with when I did the clown workshop at Philippe Goulier, École Goulier. I was going to make a video about that, aren't I, at some point. So thank you for joining me on today's video. I was about to say thanks for joining me on that walk because of the John Rogers walk stuff. Thanks for listening to me rattle on about my experiences of doing morning pages for 50 days. And, well, I look forward to seeing you in the next chapter. I look forward to seeing you on the next page. Yeah, I think that's right. I look forward to seeing you on the next page. Or I look forward to seeing you on the third side. How about that? I look forward to seeing you on... We'll get it. This is only, what, the 7th video, I think, 6th or 7th video. It will take a while. It might take us 20 videos to get the sign off right. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you soon.